edition of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Jonathan Chila. Today I am joined by Paula Kauki. Let's jump right into the headlines. We have a lot to talk about today. Standing events are set to return to Malta within weeks. Very good news there. CHEMBRI'S phone does not contain new information on the Daphne Caruana Galizia murder. Unfortunately, not very good news there. Over €2,000 in a reward has been offered following the gruesome murder of a cat in Bormla. PEPPI AZZOPARDI has revealed a graphic image showing that a prisoner did self-harm before committing suicide in prison. And evaporating waters at Chadwick Lakes has led to a major loss of fish in the area.
Nibdew bl-ewwel storja, music to a lot of people's ears. Mis-6 ta' Settembru għam mistenni li ser ikun possibbli li jsiru standing events għal massimu ta' 100 persuna per bubble u bekk l-entertainment industry qed tarġa' dara t-tama li tmur xi darba lura kif kienet qabel. Dan tabar f'konferenza tal-aħbarijiet il-bieraħ mid-Deputat Prim Ministru Chris Fern fejn waqt l-istess konferenza tal-aħbarijiet ikkonferma li mit-30 ta' dan ix-xahar ser ikun permess events bil-qiegħda għal massimu ta' 500 persuna, ġifieri minn 300 żidu għal 500, ġifieri bekk ukoll is-seated events kibru tal-massimu tagħhom. Ħabbar ukoll illi fid-dawl li se nirilaxxaw iżjed miżuri u bekk wieħed jistenna li jkun hemm xi żieda fil-każijiet qed jittieħdu l-prekawzjonijiet billi jser jingħata booster lil iktar persuni vulnerabbli fis-soċjetà. Mit-13 ta' Settembru ser jibdew jitlaqmu bil-booster dose l-anzjani li jgħixu fid-djar tal-anzjani u kif ukoll persuni illi minħabba l-kundizzjoni medika tagħhom jew minħabba mediċina illi jieħdu huma immunosuppressed. Biex bekk nippruvaw kemm jista' jkun nerġgħu mmorru lura lejn in-normalità iżda nużaw il-vaċċin biex jipproteġi lill-iktar nies vulnerabbli.
Now, obviously, this was really big news. I can tell you my social media feed was full of organizers, promoters, musicians, DJs, security, bartenders reacting to the news, saying how important it was that we reopen events. This is happening within weeks. I know some organizers already booked 4 or 5 events. Some venues are booked day in, day out, and I'm talking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday as well. So clearly there's a big thirst from the sector to return to normality. Now, it is important to remember that the COVID-19 situation globally we're not really out of the woods as it were, even though locally the situation is relatively stable. I mean, as it is, we have 37 patients in the hospital and only 2 of those are in ITU. And now, as far as the events go, technically, even though it's 100 people standing per bubble, if any venues have more than 1 or 2 entrances, and they can set up, separate areas per venue. You can actually have 2 or more bubbles of 100 people per bubble. So you can actually have 200 or 300 people at an event. If the venue is large enough, obviously all attendees must be vaccinated. But yes, a very good step forward in the entertainment area. Moving on to the next story, quite a bit of a development when it comes to the Daphne Caruana Galizia murder case. If anyone thought that, there might be some new information relevant to the case on CHEMBRI, the former chief of staff's phone, which is now in possession by the police. They will be a bit disappointed. Well-informed sources have told us that the phone, which is now in the police's possession, does not have any new information vis-a-vis the actual Daphne Caruana Galizia case. Now, that does not mean that there's not more relevant information for other cases. However, when it comes to Daphne Caruana Galizia's case, unfortunately, we'll have to keep looking otherwise. However, the lawyers of Jürgen Fenech did say that information on the phone could be used to prove or disprove claims made by Keith Arnaud, who was a lead investigator in the murder investigation. However, a bit of a development when it comes to information on the phone.
Ekku. L-avukati ta' Jürgen Fenech ukoll daħlu protest ġudizzjarju jitolbu li l-pulizija jinvestigaw Jason AZZOPARDI u l-Manuel Delija tal-li skontom provaw jintimidaw l-imħallef Giovanni Grixti qabel ismieħ tal-bejl ta' Jürgen Fenech. Nafu illi qabel ismieħ tal-bejl fuq social media kien hemm ir-ritratt tal-bill of sale ta' boat li saret minn Mr. Jürgen Fenech lill-imħallef snin ilu, però l-avukat ta' Jürgen Fenech qegħdin jinsistu li dik kienet intimidazzjoni u bekk hija ksur tal-kodiċi kriminali ta' pajjiżna. Sa naraw jekk jittieħdux passi mill-pulizija jew le għaliex di sitwazzjoni għandha id-detours u l-hiccups kollha immaġinabbli legali u drammatiċi li wieħed jista' jimmaġina f'każ simili. Naddu għattila storja kompletament differenti iżda storja li timpressjonak minn ġiex lati mill-lider L-NGO Real Animal Rights Group irnexxilha tiġbor mal-2,300 euro li qed jintużaw bħala reward money lil kwalunkwe persuna li tgħaddi informazzjoni dwar min qiegħed jaħraq il-qtates. Dan wara li f'Bormla ftit tal-jemilu attus Stray Cat ma tawh l-isem ta' Tommy lider kien maħbub fil-komunità nata n-nar ħaj ovvjament dal-qattus miet bil-ħruq. Jidher di l-NGO li tissuspetta li dan mhuwiex l-uniku każ simili u bekk irnexxilha tiġbor daqstant flus biex forsi jsibu kaptu ta' x'inhu jiġri wafqu din il-moqrija darba dejjem.
No, it's really, really good to see such a outpouring of support to find more information who is behind this crime. Now, as Paula just said, this might not be the only cat who suffered a burning like this. Now, let's be clear, this cat was covered in petrol and burnt in the street publicly. The people who found the body were obviously left a bit shocked by it. And now activists are worried that other cats might have died in the same way. So if you have any information on who may be behind it, if you heard someone joking about it, or even if you have something that might just be a trail that could lead to some information, do get in contact with the police, do get in contact with activists. Aside from the monetary reward, you can actually help save some cats' lives in the future. Moving on to another quite heavy story. Over the last few weeks, prisoners' rights in Cordine have been, one of the hottest stories in the news. And PEPPI AZZOPARDI, Xarabank host and outspoken prisoners' rights activist, has now revealed a graphic image that shows that an inmate who recently committed suicide might have actually shown that he was at risk of suicide prior to being put in prison. So obviously, Colin Gallia is the prisoner who had committed suicide a couple of weeks back. His death shocked the nation and kind of shone a spotlight on what is happening inside prison. Prison authorities had said that they had no sign that Colin Gallia was a suicide risk. However, now PEPPI AZZOPARDI has shared an image showing Colin Gallia's wrists slit at home prior to being put into prison, but after being sentenced to prison. PEPPI AZZOPARDI is saying that this is clearly a cry for help, and it shows that Colin Gallia was a suicide risk in prison. So the fact that authorities are saying that they had no sign that he could have been at a suicide risk, is a bit alarming here.
U għed se jistenna li l-inkjesta interna li tqabdet brabta ma dan il-kas li tintem m'anticipazzjoni kbira biex wieħed ikun jaf il-verità x'kienet il-verità għaliex wieħed jisma' ġiex naħat tal-istorja. Però huwa każ interessanti għaliex juri li l-biża' mill-ħabs hija hemmhekk. Hija xi ħaġa li l-Kurunnell xeba jgħid li dak huwa l-skop tiegħu li wieħed jibża mill-ħabs biex ma jidħolx il-ħabs. Sfortunatament reati kriminali xorta jsiru għalhekk wieħed irid janalizza jekk il-biża' mill-ħabs hijiex l-unika mod jew jekk hix mod suffiċjenti biex iżżomm il-persuni milli jikkommettu reati kriminali. Ġifieri nemmen li dan il-każ ser jgħin nispera li ser jgħin sabiex titjib is-sistema kollha tal-ħabs f'pajjiżna. L-aħħar storja jidher illi t-temp sħun tal-aħħar jiem mhux biss affettwa lilna illi kulħadd tajja u xeba minn din is-sħana imma tiħalli impatt qawwi fuq il-ħut illi jgħixu f'Chadwick Lakes. Dan wara li jidher li l-ilma f'Chadwick Lakes qiegħed jevapora minħabba s-sħana u wara rapporti li saru l-era konfermat illi minħabba li qed jevapora l-ilma ħut illi mhuwiex imdorri li mhuwiex ħut illi normalment issib fil-Mediterran li jaf ikun iktar jiflaħ staġuni nixfin u sħan qegħdin imutu.
It's a bit of a shocking story. The images, they're not very nice. You don't want to see all these fish dying. And, climate change right now is definitely one of the hottest topics. We've been reporting on it. There's been fires all around Europe. There's been fires in Malta as well. But what was interesting here is that ERA actually took the time to say, guys, do not release any aquarium fish or non-native species into Malta's public wetlands. Now, obviously, Chadwick Lakes is one of the few kind of public watery areas we have in Malta, at least. Having so many dead fish suddenly appear does lead to questions of, are they native species? Are they aquarium species that were released there? Should they have been there in the first place? So yes, do not release your pets into Malta's public waterways. That brings us to the end of today's episode, but we will leave you with a very, very, very intimate and emotional trailer from our new documentary on Bjorn Formosa. And obviously Bjorn Formosa is one of Malta's ALS heroes who's literally dedicated the rest of his life to raising funds for a new home for ALS patients as well as other patients with neurodegenerative diseases. So check out the trailer now. The full documentary launches tomorrow, Thursday, on Lovin Malta's Facebook, so you definitely check it out. And until then, have a day full of lovin'.
I live by the sense of urgency, yeah. Life surprises you. Well, you can do incredible things, even without moving any muscle of your body. Yeah. Għajjejt nibbat in-nies lura d-dar ngħidilhom li ma nistax ngħinhom. Ma li kont naqra li l-isma kien hemm l-ebda tip ta' trattament magħruf, allura kienet sentenza tal-mewt pratikament.
Jekk tkun tħobb persuna jiena nemmen li tagħmel kollox għalih.
We started realizing that most of the people with ALS, they don't have the necessary support they need at home. Tu għalhekk huwa ta' interess nazzjonali dal-proġett jiġi miftuħ kemm jista' jkun malajr.